The ballroom at the Fairmont looked less like a hotel and more like a pitch deck blown up on a screen. Spotlights carved white lines across polished wood floors. Cameras clicked in staccato bursts, each flash bouncing off the giant LED wall where Hale Systems' logo swallowed up the smaller word Lumen Lie dot in the wings. Ava Lynn stood with a presentation clicker clenched so tight her knuckles turned pale. She had put on a black minimalist dress, hair pinned back in a no-nonsense bun. On the surface, she looked calm. Inside, her chest burned. 3 years of ramen dinners, 30-hour sprints, server crashes and scrappy victories. Now her company was just another bullet point in a corporate roadmap. Please welcome Hale Systems CEO. Lucas Hale. He strode to the podium in a charcoal suit, tie a shade darker. Tall, lean, composed. Lucas carried himself like a man used to turning rooms into his boardroom. His voice was steady, practiced. Today, Hale Systems formally welcomes Lumenly into the family. We are not just acquiring a product. We are investing in the future of real-time behavioral analytics for enterprise clients. The lead shifted to a new slide. Enterprise First Roadmap. The bullet points gleamed like verdicts. Standardize SLAs. Fortify security. Optimize profit margins. Suspend non-revenue experiments. Ava swallowed hard. To her, Lumenly wasn't just analytics. It was empathy coded into dashboards. It was giving small teams a fighting chance to understand their users. In Lucas's world, it had become a line item to be optimized. The PR handler gestured for her. Ava stepped into the lights, the floor swallowing the sound of her heels. She adjusted the mic. I'm Ava Lynn, co-founder of Lumenly. We believe this deal gives Lumenly the runway to fly higher than ever. A hand shot up from the press pit. Do you regret selling your company? The question sliced through the room. Everyone expected the polite answer. No, I'm thrilled. But Ava's eyes darted to the back rows where her engineers sat, Priya among them, their faces taut with the same unease she carried. She steadied her breath. I didn't sell a dream, she said. I found a way to keep it alive. A ripple of murmurs spread across the ballroom. Cameras clicked faster. Lucas glanced at her, unreadable, as though filing away her defiance. Another question came sharp as a blade. Rumors say Lumenly's downtime is climbing and retention dropping. Is Hale going to sunset the product once it's drained of value? Lucas leaned into the mic. We only sunset products that don't serve customers. Lumenly will meet enterprise standards, measurable SLAs, audited security, and above all, focus. Polite applause followed, thin but sufficient. The PR team hustled them off stage before anyone could press harder. Backstage, Marcus Voss, Hale's coup, approached with a smile polished like chrome. Welcome aboard, Ava. I've reviewed your code base. We'll need to trim things down to align with enterprise demands. Trim as in refine or as in gut? Ava asked flatly. Trim as in cut what doesn't drive P&L. Marcus replied smoothly. Don't worry, I'll protect you from your own product. A buzz on her Slack from Priya, staging choked. Atlas Bank tests failing. Vendor auth Marcus forced through is the bottleneck. Ava exhaled sharply. Log everything. I'll see you back at the office, she typed back. Lucas appeared, offering her a bottle of water. His steel grey eyes met hers without urgency. After lunch, I want a full walkthrough. I want to see how you built empathy into data flows. She arched a brow. Empathy has a KPI now. Yes, Lucas said, deadpan. It's called retention. By late afternoon, Ava was back on the 19th floor of Hale's glass tower. The office looked more like an aquarium than a workplace, floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek desks, branded screensavers. On the wall, Grafana dashboards bled red. Auth vendor choked at 11:02, Priya reported. Throughput down 17%. Procurement locked rollback. Ava pulled up a blank doc and titled it, War Room Charter. Numbers first. Blame later. Honest comes with Atlas every 4 hours. Ava, plus. Priya controlled tech decisions for 14 days. Every change must have rolled back. The door swung open again. Lucas entered, sleeves rolled, iPad balanced in one hand. Walk me through. Ava drew on the glass wall. Sign up gives verify, gives first insight, gives bookmark, gives return. She circled the second box. This is where we earn trust. One clean insight, contextualized. That's what makes them come back. If latency kills this moment, retention collapses. Solution? Lucas asked. Run our native auth in parallel. 1 week of cloud credits to refactor. Marcus barged in again, waving a packet. Change review board at 11. No exceptions. Even lab work falls under protocol. Lab isn't production, Ava countered. Hale's lab, Marcus said coolly. Procurement signed the vendor. Parallel auth is breach. Lucas's reply was calm but final. 14-day fast lane for Ava's team. Changes logged. Rollback mandatory. CRB reviews after. CFO signs off. Marcus's smile cracked. Fast lane doesn't exist in the handbook. Then add it, Lucas said. Eyes never leaving his. Ava looked between them, pulse racing. For the first time since the acquisition, she felt a crack in the cage. Not freedom, not yet, but room enough to fight. Outside, rain streaked down the glass like code scrolling too fast to read. Ava opened Slack and typed into hashtag war-room:begin. By 7:30 the next morning, the 19th floor of Hale Systems' glass tower already felt like it had been awake for hours. Ava swiped her badge at security, coffee steaming in one hand, and walked into a space that looked more like a science lab than an office. Everything was sleek, spotless, and aligned with geometric precision rows of white desks, dual monitors, ergonomic chairs. It should have impressed her. Instead, it made her skin itch. Startups were messy, human. This felt like a terrarium where she was the specimen. Slack notifications exploded across her laptop the second she logged in. Priya had been up all night, pasting logs of the vendor auth choke and overlaying graphs with angry red spikes. Ava opened a blank Google Doc and hammered out a header in bold. War Room Charter. Numbers first. Blame later. Transparent updates to Atlas every 4 hours. Technical decisions controlled by Ava Plus. Priya for 14 days. Every change must have a rollback path no one uses. Contracts as an excuse to strangle the product. She was rereading the last line when the door opened. Lucas walked in, sleeves rolled, no tie, iPad tucked under one arm. He looked like a man who had already run 5 miles and was ready for another fight. Walk me through it, he said. Ava led him to the glass wall, where she uncapped a red marker and drew. Sign up gives verify, gives first insight, gives bookmark, gives return. She circled first insight. This is the heartbeat, she said. One clean, contextualized insight. That's where users feel understood. If latency blows past 200 milliseconds, that moment's gone, and retention craters. Lucas studied the sketch. Tie it to enterprise churn cohorts, and you'll win board support. We can, Ava said. But only if we stop choking at verify. I need parallel auth and a week of cloud credits to refactor. The door cracked open again. Marcus stepped in, smug smile in place, papers in hand. CRB meets at 11. No shortcuts. Lab falls under review. Lab isn't production, Ava said evenly. Hale's lab, Marcus replied. Procurement signed the vendor. Parallel auth is breach. Lucas didn't raise his voice. Fast lane. 14 days. Ava's team runs in parallel. Every change logged, rollback mandatory. CRB reviews afterward. CFO signs off. Marcus blinked. Fast lane isn't in the handbook. Then add it, Lucas said. Calm as steel. Ava caught herself staring at Lucas. For the first time. He wasn't just the man who'd bought her company, he was giving her space to keep it alive. At 10, Priya flipped the switch in the lab. Grafana's line dropped, latency sliding from 280 milliseconds to 160. Native modules breathing. Vendors the choke, she announced. Ava fired off a message to Atlas. Parallel auth running in lab. Verify latency down 40%. Production untouched. Full report at 5 p.m. Atlas replied in minutes. Okay, don't touch prod without airtight rollback. Ava let out a short laugh. The gospel of engineering. Don't touch prod. Lucas, leaning against a desk, didn't smile. Retention plus 10% in 14 days. Plan, no gimmicks, Ava said. Flow is first, insight gives bookmark, gives return. 2 transactional emails, short and contextual, not marketing. And microcopy rewritten to reinforce value. Marcus will push back. I'll call them transactional, not marketing, Ava countered. Users aren't stupid. Lucas tapped his iPad. Noted. Add it to the amendment. Lunch was bland salads and lukewarm sandwiches in the cafeteria. Ava picked at lettuce. Lucas drank black coffee, as though flavor was a distraction. Hale's postmortems are witch trials, Ava muttered. They should start with one question, Lucas said. Where did we fail, not who failed? Ava turned to him. Didn't think you'd say that. I used to believe in who, he admitted, gaze fixed on the skyline. It cost more than I care to remember. Her phone buzzed. An email from legal. Parallel auth in lab approved. Atlas Kongs co-signed by Hale. Rollback toggle required if vendor SLA breaks. For 14 days, Ava plus Priya make production calls, daily CFO reports. Then the sting at the bottom. Any breach of comms protocol may void earnout. Ava's stomach dropped. That earnout wasn't just her paycheck, it was how she'd promised to keep her team's equity safe. The rope tightened. At 2, Marcus pulled her into a side conference room. On the screen, Sandbox decommission plan. I need your signature to suspend Sandbox, he said smoothly, protecting Hale's brand. No, Ava said flatly. Sandbox is the funnel. Kill it, you kill growth. Marcus leaned closer. Your earnout hinges on retention and enterprise logos. Cooperate. Retention isn't built on threats, she shot back. It's built on a product that works. The door opened. Lucas stepped inside. Hannah already approved the fast lane. Marcus, clean up the vendor mess. Sandbox stays. Marcus's eyes hardened. I'll remember this in the post-mortem. He stormed out. Ava looked at Lucas, breath unsteady. You just saved me. No, he said. I saved the product. You still have to ship. At 5 sharp, they dialed Atlas. Ava delivered the update. Lab latency down 44%. Targeting 150 milliseconds if partial. Microcopy drafted. First transactional email written. Production untouched. Atlas's head of data didn't waste words. Need real numbers by Friday. No numbers, pilot ends. We won't touch prod without rollback, Ava said. But we're aiming to deliver. Lucas added, if we miss, you shut us down. No excuses. The call ended. Priya ticked off lab green on the checklist. Ava turned to the charter and added a 6th rule. If you must choose, choose right, not easy. Her phone buzzed again. A calendar invite from Elaine Park. Chairwoman, retention turnaround plan. Monday, 8:30 a.m., 4 days. That was all. Ava leaned back, exhaustion pooling in her shoulders. She opened Slack and typed one line into hashtag war-room: checkpoint 1, lab green. Keep going. Monday morning hit like a wall. The invite from Elaine Park, chairwoman of the board, was still glaring at Ava from her inbox. Retention turnaround. Planned to 8:30 a.m. sharp. The conference room on the 34th floor was all glass and chrome, its view stretching across midtown Manhattan. Lucas sat at the head of the table, Marcus to his right, Ava across from them with Priya beside her. The board dialed in through video screens, faces arranged in neat grids. Elaine's voice crackled through the speaker. We need proof retention will turn in 90 days. Otherwise, we sunset the product. Lucas, you know what that means for the quarterly forecast. Lucas nodded once. Understood, Ava. He turned the floor to her without preamble. Ava straightened in her chair, palms flat on the table. She walked them through the war room charter, the latency improvements in the lab, and the plan to restore retention. First insight gives bookmark, gives return. Every word was backed with graphs, projections, and Priya's annotations. But Marcus leaned forward, his voice dripping with patience that felt like poison. Retention is only one metric. Enterprise clients demand predictability. Ava's obsession with sandbox testing for small teams is distracting. Resources from real revenue. That sandbox is our funnel, Ava shot back. Kill it, and you strangle new adoption before it starts. The room tensed. One of the board members muttered something about startup naivete. Ava caught it but pressed on, heat rising in her chest. Lucas finally spoke. Sandbox stays. It's a cost-effective entry point. Ava's team will run the experiment, but with strict reporting. Ava blinked, startled. Lucas hadn't just defended her, he'd defended the principle. Back on the 19th floor, whispers swirled. Rumors, seeded by Marcus, had started to spread. Ava was just a figurehead, kept around for optics. That she didn't have real authority. She heard 2 engineers by the coffee machine, voices hushed but not low enough. I heard Marcus say she's basically a mascot now. Earn-out puppet. Her throat burned. She turned back to her desk, forcing herself not to react. But Priya saw her face pale. They're parroting Marcus, Priya muttered. Ignore it, ignore it. Ava hissed. If they think I'm powerless, I might as well be. That afternoon, a draft internal memo leaked to Slack channels, painting Ava's sandbox as a vanity project. Ava's hands shook on the keyboard. Before she could reply, the memo vanished from every channel. A new message popped up. Company-wide comms must come from Corp PR. Unauthorized posts are prohibited. LH, Lucas, Hale. The office went silent. No one dared push back. Ava leaned back in her chair, breathing shallow. She hadn't expected Lucas to intervene. Certainly not like that late evening, with the office mostly empty. Lucas appeared by her desk. He rested a hand on the back of a chair. "You can't fight rumors with anger," he said quietly. "You think I should just let Marcus bury me?" "I think you should bury him with results," Lucas said. Friday's cutover hit the numbers. The board doesn't care about whispers. They care about retention curves and SLA charts. Ava wanted to argue, to snap that she wasn't just numbers. But exhaustion dulled the edges of her temper. He was right about one thing. Data was the only language this building respected. Still, she forced the words out. This isn't just a fight for metrics. It's about how we treat users. If you strip that away, Lumenly becomes another soulless dashboard. Lucas's expression shifted just a flicker. "You think I don't know that? Do you?" She pressed, for a moment, silence. Then he said, "Empathy has a KPI, retention. If we can prove it, we save both the product and its soul." The way he said it made her pause. Cold, pragmatic, but also oddly protective. That night, Ava stayed until the city lights blurred through the rain on the windows. She drafted the cutover plan with Priya, every toggle, every rollback path annotated. At midnight, a Slack ping from Lucas Haleboard approved provisional fast lane. Deliver Friday. No excuses. Underneath, he'd added one line she didn't expect. "Keep building the way you believe. Just make sure it works." Ava stared at the screen. For the first time since the acquisition, the glass walls around her felt less like a cage and more like a challenge. By Friday, they'd know if Lumenly had a future or if Marcus would win. Friday came fast. Ava hadn't really slept in 3 days, surviving on coffee and adrenaline. Every morning blurred into Slack updates, latency charts, and endless checklists. By dawn, she and Priya were hunched over laptops in the war room, the walls plastered with printouts of user flows and rollback maps. Today wasn't just a milestone. Today was do or die. Atlas Bank, the biggest pilot client, was ready to walk if latency didn't drop and retention didn't turn. By time, the war room was full. Engineers, product leads, ops, staff. Everyone looked tense, clutching cups of bad cafeteria coffee. Ava stood at the whiteboard, marker in hand. "Okay, cutover plan is live in 2 phases. Phase 1 at 11 a.m., partial migration to native auth. Phase 2 at 2 p.m., full switch with rollback toggle in place. Priya's running, monitoring. Samsung comes with Atlas, and I'll call the shots if something breaks." Clear, a murmur of agreement, tight but determined. The door opened. Lucas walked in, sleeves rolled up, blazer draped over one arm. For once, he didn't look like a CEO. He looked like another operator stepping into the trench. "Marcus isn't happy," Lucas said calmly, taking a seat near the back. "He's lobbying the board to suspend Sandbox altogether. But none of that matters if you hit your numbers today." Ava nodded without looking at him. "Then we hit the numbers." At 11 o'clock sharp, Priya pushed the first change. For a few heart-stopping seconds, Grafana flickered red. CPU spikes, error rates climbing. A junior engineer swore under his breath. Hold, Ava ordered, eyes locked on the metrics. She counted down. 3, 2, 1. The red lines dipped. Latency dropped from 280 milliseconds to 180. Error rate stabilized. The room exhaled as one. Phase 1, Green, Priya announced. Relief breaking across her face. Sam fired off the update to Atlas. Ava leaned against the table, fighting to keep her hands steady. One step down. One more to go. By noon, Marcus appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, expression smug. If anything goes wrong in Phase 2, Atlas pulls. The board will hold you responsible. Ava didn't flinch. We already know the risk. That's why rollback exists. Marcus smirked. Rollback won't fix reputation. Before Ava could snap back, Lucas spoke from the back of the room. If you have nothing useful to add, Marcus, leave. The COO's smile faltered for half a beat. He spun on his heel and walked out. For a moment, silence. Then Ava caught Lucas's gaze across the room. There was no smile, no reassurance. Just an unspoken "I've got your back." Now deliver. 2 p.m. Phase 2. Full cutover. Priya's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Ready. Do it, Ava said. The switch flipped. Metrics spiked again, higher this time. For 30 seconds, the room held its breath. Then, slowly, like a storm breaking apart, the lines dipped. 170 milliseconds, 160, 150.priya let out a laugh that was half a sob. Holy shit. We did it. The room erupted. High fives, cheers, relief flooding the air. Even the junior engineer who'd been pale as a ghost was grinning. Sam announced Atlas just messaged. Numbers look solid. Continuing pilot, Ava sank into a chair, every muscle in her body trembling. She felt the burn of tears at the back of her eyes, but blinked them away. Not here. Not now. Lucas walked up beside her, slipping his phone back into his pocket. You bought yourself more than time, he said quietly. You bought Lumenly a future. Ava looked up at him, exhausted but fierce. No, she corrected. The team did. I just steered. For the first time, Lucas almost smiled. Steering is everything. That evening, as the office emptied, Ava stood by the glass windows overlooking the city. Rain streaked down, blurring the skyline into watercolor smudges. Priya had gone home to finally sleep. The war room was quiet, charts still glowing green dot. Lucas joined her at the window, hands in his pockets. The board will still press. Marcus won't stop. But today you proved them wrong. Ava's chest tightened. She wanted to thank him, to ask why he kept stepping in, why he cared when he claimed all he wanted was profit curves. Instead, she said, today wasn't about them. It was about us not losing what we built. Lucas studied her for a long moment, rainlight flickering in his eyes. Then keep building, and I'll keep making sure you can. For the first time since the acquisition, Ava believed him. The war wasn't over. But for tonight, the product lived, and so did hope. The weekend after the cutover was supposed to be quiet. Ava had promised herself she'd sleep, maybe even cook a meal that didn't come in a cardboard box. But by Saturday morning, she was back at her laptop, staring at Grafana charts like they were tarot cards. The green lines held steady, 150 milliseconds latency, no new alerts. She should have felt relief. Instead, a strange unease hummed in her chest. By Monday, the war room buzzed again, though the mood had shifted. Engineers smiled a little more easily, shoulders less hunched. Someone even brought donuts. Ava bit into one absent-mindedly, her mind still on the looming board meeting. Success bought them time, but it didn't erase Marcus or the politics waiting upstairs. That afternoon, Lucas appeared in the doorway of the war room. He didn't knock, just stepped in, scanning the charts pinned to the walls. "Numbers are holding," Ava said, without looking up. "I know," he replied. "I've been watching." Something about the way he said it matter-of-fact, it almost personal, made her pause. Lucas leaned against the edge of the table, blazer unbuttoned, tie nowhere in sight. "The board will want a narrative. Not just numbers. They'll get one," Ava said. "They'll want it from me." Ava finally looked up. "Of course they will. I'm just the mascot, remember?" His gaze sharpened, but his voice stayed low. "That rumor was Marcus's doing. You're not a mascot. You're the only reason Atlas didn't walk." Her throat tightened. She wanted to believe him, but doubt clung stubbornly. "Funny, doesn't feel like it." Lucas exhaled through his nose, as though weighing how much to say. "Ava, I've been in your seat. I know what it's like to fight for something you built while people in suits call it a toy. The board doesn't see empathy or vision. They see risk. My job is to shield you from that long enough for the numbers to speak." Ava blinked. For a moment, she saw not the cold CEO who'd swallowed her company, but a man who might actually understand. Later that night, Ava left the office late, dragging her bag through the empty lobby. Outside, rain soaked the city, neon lights bleeding into puddles. She stood under the awning, too tired to even open her umbrella. Lucas's voice startled her. "You'll get sick standing like that." He was there, holding his own umbrella. Dark coat draped over one arm. Ava laughed, bitter and weary. "I've been sick since this merger started." "Then take the umbrella." He held it out. She shook her head. "Keep it. You're the CEO. Can't have you showing up drenched. Contrary to rumor." "I'm not bulletproof," he said quietly. Something inside her cracked at the softness in his tone. Against her better judgment, she stepped under the umbrella beside him. For a block, they walked in silence, the city hissing with rain around them. Finally, she asked, "Why did you fight for the sandbox?" "Really?" He didn't answer right away. The silence stretched until she thought he wouldn't. Then he said, "Because it's the only piece of Lumenly that still feels like a beating heart. Cut it, and the rest is just machinery." "I didn't buy machinery." Ava stopped walking. The words hit harder than she expected. She wanted to tell him what it meant to hear that. She wanted to let her guard down, just for a second. But before she could, her phone buzzed. A Slack ping from Priya. "Marcus is pushing a new report to the board. Claims Sandbox is wasting resources." "Meeting tomorrow." Ava's stomach dropped. She looked at Lucas. His jaw was tight. Eyes narrowed. "Looks like Marcus isn't finished," he said. "And neither am I," Ava replied. Back in her apartment that night, Ava collapsed on the couch, damp hair clinging to her cheeks. She thought about Lucas's words about shielding her, about not buying machinery. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the enemy, but Marcus was circling, and the next battle was already set. The boardroom felt colder than usual the next morning. The long table gleamed under recessed lights, water glasses lined up like soldiers. Ava sat with Priya at her side, laptop open, slides queued. Across from her, Marcus had already positioned himself like a man who owned the room tie, perfectly knotted, smile sharp enough to cut glass. Elaine Park's voice opened the meeting. Today's focus is retention and resource allocation. Marcus, you requested the floor. Marcus stood, clicking his remote. A new deck appeared on the screen, filled with bold red graphs. While recent latency improvements are commendable, he began. Oozing calm, the so-called sandbox remains a liability. It consumes resources, yet contributes negligible revenue. My recommendation is clear. Decommission sandbox immediately. Consolidate into enterprise pipelines. And protect Hale's reputation with Fortune 500 clients. Murmurs rippled across the table. The word liability echoed in Ava's ears. She clenched her fists under the table, forcing herself not to interrupt. Then Marcus dropped the hammer. This report, he said, tapping the screen, shows churn rates rising among trial users, despite Sandbox. Retention is not improving as promised. Ava's head shot up. The numbers were wrong. Deliberately wrong. Priya's face went pale beside her. Lucas's eyes flicked toward her briefly, unreadable, before settling back on the graphs. When Elaine invited questions, Ava couldn't hold back. Those numbers are fabricated, she said, standing. Her voice shook but didn't break. She advanced to the screen, pulling up her own dashboard. This is the actual retention curve, she continued, overlaying Marcus's chart with hers. Trial user return rates have increased 12% since Sandbox reopened. Atlas Bank specifically extended their pilot because of this feature. The room went still. Ava forced herself to look directly at Marcus. You cherry-picked pre-cutover data and presented it as current. That's not analysis. That's sabotage. Marcus's jaw flexed, but his smile didn't falter. Or perhaps you're overstating impact to protect your earnout. Ava, conflicts of interest can distort judgment. Heat rushed up her neck. If you want to talk conflict, let's talk about procurement deals you pushed through with vendors, choking our systems vendors, tied to your side contracts. Gasps rippled around the table. Elaine raised a hand. Enough. We'll investigate both claims. Ava's chest heaved. She'd said too much, maybe, but the truth was out there. After the meeting, Ava stormed into the hallway. Lucas caught up with her, his tone low and even. You were right to call him out. But you handed him ammunition. I couldn't just sit there while he lied. I know, Lucas said. He placed a hand lightly on her arm, steady but firm. But the board doesn't care about outrage. They care about evidence. Next time, give them proof before Marcus speaks, not after. Her breath came sharp. You think I hurt my case? I think you scared them, he replied. And scared people default to the devil they know. Marcus is betting on that. For a moment, Ava's anger cracked into despair. So what? I just let him poison everything. Lucas's voice softened. No, you outwork him, and you let me take the hits you can't. Ava stared at him. She wanted to reject the offer, to claim she didn't need his protection. But the way he said it quiet, matter of fact, made something inside her unclench. That night, Ava and Priya dug deeper into the data. Logs, cohort analyses, even email open rates. Line by line, they built a case no one could dispute. At midnight, Priya leaned back, rubbing her eyes. If Marcus forged those reports, there'll be traces in the system logs. He's sloppy when he's rushed. Ava nodded grimly. Then we find them. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. Board vote delayed pending investigation. Don't waste it. Bring me evidence I can use. She stared at the screen, then back at Priya. Looks like the war's not over, Ava said. Priya gave a tired smile. When was it ever? By dawn, they had their first lead. Access logs that didn't line up. Someone had pulled retention data at 3 a.m., then exported altered CSVs. Markers had left fingerprints, and Ava had the first weapon to fight back. The evidence sat on Ava's laptop like a live wire. Access logs, time-stamped at 3 in the morning, showed someone had exported retention data from Hale's servers, edited it, and re-uploaded a cleaned version. The kicker, the login credentials belonged to Marcus's executive assistant. Priya leaned over her shoulder, eyes wide. This is it. He doctored the numbers. Ava's heart pounded. Not enough. The board won't take my word. They'll say I'm biased. Then loop in Lucas, Priya urged. He's the only one they'll believe. The thought made Ava's stomach twist. Trusting Lucas felt like walking a tightrope. He'd shielded her more than once. But he was still Hale Systems CEO. Was he protecting her, or just protecting the asset he'd bought? By mid-morning, Ava knocked on Lucas's office door. His space was minimalist floor-to-ceiling windows. A desk to clean to be real. A single framed photo of a younger Lucas standing outside an MIT lab. He glanced up from his laptop. You've got something. Ava set her laptop on the desk, opening the log files. Marcus tampered with the data. These logs prove it. Lucas leaned forward, studying the screen. His jaw tightened. This is sloppy. He thought no one would dig. Sloppy or not, he's convincing. If the board buys his story, Sandbox is dead and so is Lumenly's future. Lucas shut the laptop with a snap, eyes sharp. Then we don't let him frame the narrative. You'll present the real numbers at the board review tomorrow. And I'll back you. Ava's chest tightened. You'll back me, or you'll translate me into corporate speak so they'll listen. Something flickered in his eyes, irritation, maybe, or respect. Both, he said simply. The next morning, the board convened again. Marcus walked in like a man arriving at his coronation, confident smirk in place. He launched into another polished pitch about protecting Hale's brand, but halfway through, Lucas raised a hand. Before we continue, Ava has data to present. Marcus stiffened. With all due respect, she has a conflict of interest, and with all due respect, Lucas cut in. So do you. The room went silent. Marcus's face paled a shade, but Ava didn't miss a beat. She plugged in her laptop and pulled up the real retention curves since cutover. Trial user return rates are up 12%. Atlas Bank confirmed a pilot extension because of Sandbox. And these, she clicked to a screen of server logs, are access records showing data tampering. Exported at 3:04 a.m. and re-uploaded at 3:27. The credentials used belonged to Marcus's office. Gasps spread across the table. Elaine leaned forward. Marcus, is this true? Marcus sputtered. Those could have been administrative errors. Logs can be manipulated. Not these, Ava said firmly. They're cryptographically signed. Immutable. The board members muttered, eyes narrowing at Marcus. His composure cracked, just slightly. Elaine's voice was ice. We'll initiate a full investigation. Until then, Sandbox remains active. Meeting adjourned. Afterward, in the hallway, Ava nearly collapsed against the wall. Priya squeezed her arm, whispering, "You just gutted him." Lucas appeared beside them, calm as ever. "You didn't just defend Sandbox. You defended yourself." Ava looked at him, still trembling. "You handed me the floor." "Why?" He met her gaze steadily. "Because the truth needed your voice, not mine." For a moment, she forgot the board, the politics, even Marcus. All she saw was the man who had risked his own standing to give her space. That night, the team gathered in the war room, pizza boxes stacked high, charts glowing green. They laughed for the first time in weeks, shoulders unburdened. Ava stood at the window, slice in hand, watching the city pulse with neon. Lucas joined her quietly. "You turned the tide today," he said. "We," Ava corrected. "I couldn't have without you." His lips curved into the faintest smile. "Steering is everything. Remember." For once, Ava let herself smile back. But deep down, she knew Marcus wasn't finished. Men like him didn't go quietly. Still, tonight, she allowed herself the luxury of victory. The following week, the office felt different. For the first time since the acquisition, people walked the halls with something like hope. Slack threads were full of green check marks instead of angry red charts. Even the interns looked less terrified. Atlas Bank had doubled down on its pilot. Early trial users were returning in higher numbers than projections. The sandbox Ava had fought so hard to protect was proving its worth. But Ava couldn't relax. Not yet. Marcus had gone conspicuously silent since the board meeting, and silence from him was more dangerous than noise. Late one night, the war room was empty except for Ava. She sat at the glass wall, marker in hand, refining a new flow. Insight gives share, gives team adoption. If they could get one user in a company to share a chart, the whole team might adopt Lumen Lie. The door opened behind her. "You don't sleep, do you?" Lucas stepped inside, no blazer, sleeves rolled high, looking more like an engineer than a CEO. Ava smirked tiredly. "Sleep is a pre-acquisition luxury." He studied the diagram on the wall. Share, flow, clever, viral growth in a B2B context. Not viral, Ava corrected. Contagious trust. One user shows value, others follow. For a moment, Lucas didn't speak. Then he said quietly, "That's why I bought you." Ava froze, marker mid-air. "Excuse me?" "Not you," he clarified quickly. "Your conviction. You see people in numbers. That's rare. Most of us just see numbers." Her throat tightened. She wanted to deflect, to make a joke, but the sincerity in his tone stopped her. They ended up sitting on the floor, backs against the glass, laptops open, arguing over microcopy-like to over-caffeinated founders. Ava fought for softer, human phrasing. Lucas pushed for precision. Somehow, the clash felt less like war and more like collaboration. At one point, Ava laughed, genuine, unguarded. Lucas looked at her, startled, as if he hadn't expected the sound. "You laugh," he said, "like someone who still believes startups can save the world, and you don't." She shot back. His eyes flicked to the window, city lights reflected like constellations. "I used to." There was something in his voice, wistful, almost painful. For the first time, Ava wondered what he had lost along the way. By dawn, the ShareFlow prototype was live in the lab. They stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the first test users click through. Retention curves nudged upward. Small but undeniable. Ava whispered. It's working. Lucas's lips curved just barely, but enough. So are we. She turned to him, pulse quickening. The moment stretched too close, too charged. She pulled back first, clearing her throat. We should push the numbers before Atlas reviews next week. Lucas nodded, expression shuttered again. Of course, but the look lingered in his eyes. A quiet acknowledgement that something between them had shifted. That Friday, Elaine called. Retention turnaround exceeded expectations. Atlas signed a longer contract. Congratulations. Ava hung up, heart racing. She wanted to scream, to dance, to hug Priya and the team. Instead, she found herself in the hallway with Lucas. It worked, she said simply. He nodded. Because you made it work. Their eyes met. No corporate shields, no board politics, just a people who had fought the same war and survived. For the first time, Ava let herself think. Maybe this wasn't just about saving a product. Maybe it was about saving each other. But Marcus wasn't gone, and Ava knew better than to think one victory would end the war. Still, for tonight, she allowed herself to hope. The celebration didn't last. On Monday morning, Ava arrived at the office to find Whispers waiting for her. Slack threads had gone quiet. Engineers who had been all smiles last week now avoided eye contact. She felt the shift immediately, like walking into a room where the air had been sucked out. Priya met her at her desk, face tense. Marcus leaked something. Ava's stomach dropped. What? Priya lowered her voice. Emails, private ones. Between you and Lucas. The late-night debates about microcopy, the notes about Sandbox. He twisted them to look like favoritism, like you're only here because of him. The blood drained from Ava's face. She opened her inbox. At the top sat a forwarded file, evidence of conflict. Ava Lynn's preferential treatment. There it was, snippets of her messages with Lucas. Pulled out of context. Painted as proof she was getting special privileges while everyone else played by the rules. Ava's chest tightened. He's trying to discredit me with my own team. By noon, Elaine had summoned both her and Lucas to the 34th floor. The board members' faces glared down from the video wall. Marcus spoke first, smooth as ever. Transparency is vital. If personal relationships cloud business judgment, we risk shareholder trust. Hail systems cannot afford favoritism. Ava's pulse thundered. This isn't favoritism. It's collaboration. Every decision we made is logged. The numbers speak for themselves, but the whispers were already planted. Elaine's expression was unreadable. We'll need an internal review. For now, Ava, Limit Direct comes with Lucas. All product changes must route through Marcus's office. It felt like a punch to the gut. Ava opened her mouth to protest, but Lucas spoke first. If you cut her out, you cut out the only person who understands why retention turned. Elaine's gaze sharpened. Then perhaps you should have kept a more professional distance, Lucas. Silence fell. Lucas's jaw flexed, but he didn't argue. Ava felt the walls close in. Back on the 19th floor, the team looked at her differently. Priya tried to rally them, but doubt had already seeped in. One engineer muttered under his breath as Ava passed. Mascot, after all. Her hands shook as she typed at her laptop. For the first time since the acquisition, she wondered if Marcus had finally outmaneuvered her. That night, she left the office late. Rain slicked the sidewalks, the city blurred in neon. She stopped under an awning, fighting the sting of tears. Ava, Lucas's voice cut through the noise. He stood a few feet away, dark coat, umbrella at his side. He looked more human than she'd ever seen him, tired, raw. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have protected you better." She shook her head. "You can't protect me from whispers. They'll always believe what they want." Marcus knew exactly how to twist it. Lucas stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then we show them. Not with words, with results, again." Her laugh was hollow. "How many times do we have to prove ourselves?" "As many as it takes." His eyes locked on hers. "I didn't buy machinery, Ava. I meant it. I bought the heart. And I'm not letting Marcus cut it out." Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him, wanted to lean on the conviction in his voice. But right now, the weight of suspicion felt heavier than hope. Back in her apartment, she opened her laptop. Charts glowed back at her. Retention curves were still climbing. Users didn't care about politics. They cared about product. Maybe that was enough to keep fighting. She closed her eyes, whispering to herself, one more round, because if Marcus wanted a war, Ava wasn't done. Not yet. By Tuesday morning, Ava could feel the weight of suspicion pressing down from every corner of the office. Conversations hushed when she entered a room. Engineers who once trusted her second guesses now CC'd Marcus's office on every update. The war room charter pinned to the wall looked less like a rallying cry and more like graffiti on borrowed space. She kept her head down, pushing numbers, building flows, anything to drown out the whispers. But the harder she worked, the more invisible she felt. At noon, Elaine's assistant called. "The chairwoman wants a private update on the product's future." Without you in the room, the words landed like a knife. Ava closed her laptop slowly, trying not to let her hands shake. "Thank you," she said mechanically, though rage burned in her chest. Hours later, Priya found her still at her desk, eyes red from staring at code that wouldn't compile. "Ava," she whispered, "don't let him win." "He already has," Ava muttered. "They don't trust me. They think I'm here because Lucas likes me." Marcus knew exactly where to hit. Priya grabbed her shoulders. "We wouldn't be here without you. Atlas wouldn't still be a client. The sandbox would be dead. Don't forget that." But Ava wasn't sure she believed it anymore. That evening, she slipped out early, something she never did. She walked aimlessly through the rain-soaked streets of Manhattan, past neon diners and steaming subway grates. Eventually, she ended up at a small bar on the Lower East Side, the kind with creaky stools and a jukebox stuck on classic rock. She ordered whiskey neat, even though she hated whiskey. It burned going down, but at least it felt like something. By her third sip, Lucas slid onto the stool beside her. No suit, no tide, just a dark sweater and that calm presence she had come to recognize. "You're predictable," he said softly. "When the walls close in, you run to noise." She shot him a look. "How did you find me?" "I know the bartender," he said, nodding toward the man behind the counter, who gave Lucas a subtle nod back. Ava laughed bitterly. "Of course you do. You always know everything." "Not everything," he admitted. "I don't know how to make you believe me." Her throat tightened. "Why should I? You're the reason I'm here, drowning in politics instead of building. You bought my company, Lucas. You turned my life into a transaction." His jaw clenched. and I regret letting Marcus weaponize that against you. But I didn't buy you to strip you down. I bought you because you're the only one in this building who still gives a damn about people in the numbers. She shook her head, eyes glassy. Words don't fix the fact that they don't trust me anymore. Lucas leaned closer, voice low but steady. Then let's give them proof they can't ignore. Another pilot, bigger than Atlas. If we land it, Marcus won't matter. Ava blinked, caught off guard. What client? He slid a napkin across the bar. On it was a name scrawled in his precise handwriting. Brightwell Health, a Fortune 100 company. Twice the size of Atlas. They've been sniffing around Hale for months, Lucas explained. Marcus tried to push them into a vendor lock-in. They walked. But if Lumenly's sandbox can show value in healthcare analytics, it'll change everything. Her heart thudded. The idea was insane ambitious, nearly impossible, but also exactly the kind of bet she used to make before Hale's glass walls caged her. You're asking me to gamble with what little credibility I have left, she whispered. I'm asking you to win it back, Lucas said, eyes locked on hers. For a long moment, the bar noise faded, the clink of glasses, the hum of the jukebox, the rain against the windows. It was just them, suspended in a fragile truce. Finally, Ava exhaled. One last round, then Lucas's lips curved, the closest thing to a smile she'd seen in weeks. That's all I needed to hear. Later that night, Ava walked home through the rain, soaked but steadier. Marcus had cornered her, broken her down, nearly pushed her out. But she wasn't done yet. She still had a product worth fighting for, and maybe, just maybe, a partner worth trusting. Brightwell Health wasn't just another client. It was a mountain, with hospitals across the country, millions of patient records, and regulatory scrutiny that made Atlas look like a playground. Brightwell represented both salvation and suicide. For Ava, it was the only way forward. 2 days later, she found herself in a sleek conference room across from Brightwell's analytics team. The walls were plastered with compliance posters, HIPAA disclaimers glaring down like silent guards. A dozen executives sat around the table, their laptops glowing with spreadsheets. The lead, a woman named Dr. Patel, didn't waste time. We've heard your sandbox works for agile teams, but healthcare is not agile. It's life and death. Convince me Lumenly isn't a liability. Ava's palms were slick, but she forced herself to breathe. We don't just give insights, she said. We give clarity. In high-stakes environments, clarity saves time, and time saves lives. Lucas sat beside her, quiet but present, letting Ava take the floor. She could feel his gaze, steady and grounding, as she demoed the flow, patient intake data, bottlenecks flagged, actionable recommendations delivered in seconds. When the test dashboard populated with simulated ER data, Dr. Patel leaned forward. If you can do that with real data and guarantee security, we'll consider a pilot. Give us 2 weeks, Ava said. We'll prove it. Back at Hale, the war room came alive again. Priya pulled in extra engineers, redrafting code to meet compliance standards. Ava lived on caffeine and adrenaline, rewriting microcopy to pass Brightwell's strict review. Late nights blurred into dawns. Lucas was there more often than not, sleeves rolled, his calm presence a strange anchor. He didn't bark orders like Marcus. He asked questions, listened, and when Ava faltered, he quietly redirected her back on course. One night, While the team argued over encryption modules, Ava stepped out for air. Lucas followed, finding her leaning against the glass. City lights shimmering below. "You're carrying all of it," he said softly. "That's what founders do. Founders also burn out." She gave a humorless laugh. "I've been burning out since Series A." Lucas's expression shifted something like recognition. "I know the feeling." She studied him, catching a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. "What did you burn out on?" He looked away. "On believing I could fix everything myself." The silence stretched between them, heavy but strangely comforting. By the end of the first week, the Brightwell pilot was half built. Logs were cleaner, latency held steady, and the sandbox had been adapted for clinical work. But Marcus wasn't idle. He prowled the hallways like a shark, whispering doubts into receptive ears. One evening, Ava overheard him in the cafeteria, voice low but venomous. "She's risking the company on a gamble. Healthcare is a minefield. When it blows up, guess who they'll blame?" Ava clenched her fists but walked away. Confrontation wouldn't save her now. Results would. The night before the Brightwell trial went live, Ava sat alone in the war room. The charts glowed green, but her chest felt tight. What if she failed? What if Marcus was right? The door opened. Lucas entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. He set one beside her. "You're thinking of everything that could go wrong," he said. "Isn't that what leaders do?" "Leaders also imagine what could go right." Ava looked at him, really looked. For weeks, she'd seen him as the enemy, the shield, the strategist. Tonight, she saw the man who had chosen to stand beside her when it would have been easier to let Marcus win. She whispered, "What if we're wrong?" Lucas's answer was simple, steady. "Then we try again." But tomorrow we're not wrong. For the first time, Ava almost believed it. At dawn, the pilot with Brightwell would begin. Success could rewrite everything. Failure could end it all. Either way, Ava knew she wasn't facing it alone. The Brightwell trial launched at sunrise. The war room at Hale Systems was silent, except for the hum of servers and the staccato tapping of keyboards. Ava stood in front of the dashboard, coffee untouched, her entire body taut with anticipation. Priya monitored the live feed. Lucas stood close by, calm but alert. Brightwell's test data began to flow at admissions, patient wait times, triage notes. The sandbox churned, processing at speeds Ava had only dreamed of. For the first few minutes, the charts glowed green. Latency stable. Insights flowing. Then an error message flashed red. A hush fell. "Encryption mismatch on intake module," Priya muttered, fingers flying. "One of Brightwell's nodes isn't handshaking with our API." Marcus appeared in the doorway, as if he'd been waiting for failure. "I warned you. Healthcare isn't a playground. Pull the plug before you embarrass us." Ava's pulse thundered. She gripped the table, forced herself to breathe. No rollback. Not yet. Priya patched the handshake. "Sam, notify Brightwell we're deploying a hot..." "Lucas," she stopped. Lucas was already beside her, scanning the logs. "He's right about one thing," Lucas said quietly. "We don't get second chances with Brightwell. But if you trust me, we can reroute traffic through Sandbox B while Priya patches Ava met his eyes. The room felt like it was holding its breath. She nodded once. "Do it." Minutes stretched like hours. Red slowly faded back to green. The dashboard stabilized. Insights began populating, again a verge. Our wait time cut by 27%. bottlenecks flagged instantly. On the Brightwell video feed, Dr. Patel leaned forward, astonished. "That's faster than anything we've ever seen." The war room erupted in cheers. Priya threw her arms around Ava, who staggered with relief. Marcus had already slipped away, face dark. Lucas leaned close, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "You just saved more than a pilot. You saved your place in this company." Ava looked at him, heart still racing. "No, we saved it together." 2 weeks later, Brightwell officially signed. The contract was bigger than Ava had dared to hope. A validation that Sandbox wasn't just a pet project, it was the future, Elaine announced. Marcus's resignation in a terse email. No details, no ceremony, just gone. The office buzzed with relief, but Ava knew he'd left wreckage behind that would take time to clear that evening. Ava and Lucas stood on the rooftop terrace, the city sprawling beneath them in neon and glass. The wind was cool, carrying the hum of traffic and the faint scent of rain. "You proved them all wrong," Lucas said, his hands in his pockets. Ava smiled faintly. "We proved them wrong." He tilted his head. "You still don't trust me, do you?" Ava looked at him for a long moment. The man who had once been the enemy was now the one she leaned on in every battle. And yet, the scar of the acquisition still ran deep. "I'm learning," she admitted softly. "Trust takes time." Lucas nodded, as if he'd expected that. "Then I'll give it time." They stood in silence. Watching the lights blink across the skyline, Ava felt a strange calm settle over her. For the first time since the acquisition, the future didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a choice. Where it would lead for the product, for the company, for them, was still unwritten. But maybe that was the point. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning.